Hello everyone. Today we will be showcasing the Openshift cluster setup in the GCP environment. So before going to the portal itself, let's get a glance over the prerequisite and limits we need it in the GCP environment. So starting from the prerequisite, these are the API services which needs to be enabled on the GCP environment that we will be using to set up the GCP cluster. After that, we have to configure a DNS dedicated public host zone in the same project that we are hosting the OpenShift container platform, because using that DNS only we will able to access the OpenShift console over the internet. Then there are some GCP account limits. It's not a road blocker, but just need to be aware that these are the services which will be created in the GCP environment for the OpenShift cluster. The service accounts, firewall rules, images, network, static IP, target pool, CPUs, and SSDs. And in order to set up all these things, we will be needing certain permissions like a compute admin, security admin, service account admin, DNS administrator, storage admin. And when we are configuring the compute for the cluster, so there should be two machines. One would be the master node, we could say the controller pin, or one would be the worker node, what is the compute node. Bootstrap is basically a one-time machine which needed to set up these both two nodes. So these are the minimum set of configuration needed for that virtual machine. At least 4 core, 16 GB RAM, and so GB of SSD is required. Below that we will not able to create the cluster. So these are the basic minimum requirement, and we can go above that as well. So going to the GCP console. So here we can see under the OpenShift project we have two VMs. One VM is basically the master node, and one VM is the worker node. So these are the set of configuration we have chosen for this demo. You can see it. So public access to these web VMs are restricted. We can only access them using the DNS URL which we will be showing. And then talking about the DNS, so here we have created a public hosted cloud DNS, and one is a private. So public, we can see we have a record which is basically this DNS name pointing to a set of load balancing IP address that I will be showcasing. So these are the basically two zones which will require. One is for the internal communication, one is for the public communication. Then we have cloud NAT gateways. NAT gateways attached to both the worker node and the master node, because both the machines need internet access. As Red Hat the Red Hat OS needs some updates, and for all these kind of things they need an internet access. So for that we have attached the NAT gateway, and we have also configured the load balancers, because we are only accessing is using a load balancer IP address which is mapped to a DNS record. So we have three load balancers created. One is in which we have all the instance as a target pool, as you can see. There we have worker and the master node as a backend, and one is for the internal communication. For the internal load balancing we have used, in which we have used an instance group. So let's say if you want to increase the worker node count or the increase or decrease the count. So for that we have create this load balancer. So all these load balancers are basically for the backend infrastructure. It manages internally and publicly as well. Okay, then we have firewall. These are the small things at the back end which we created to support this infrastructure. So here we have created firewall rules for each internal clusters, control plane in this case, which is a master node. These are the certain ports which needs to be enabled for the each machine. So we have as per the Red Hat instructions, we have opened the certain ports. Then there are some IP address which is being associated with the load balancers which we are using. You can see various internal, external load balancers or VMs, internal IPs, or all of these IPs are assigned. And we have a virtual network in which we have created two subnets. One is for the master node and one is the worker node. So each node is in a separate subnet. And these are the networking components to support the backend infrastructure to the right set of machines we have used. And we have Cloud SQL as a managed database which we are using with a sample demo application. As you can see, this is the basic cloud PostgreSQL database, managed database, which we have spinned up for this demo. So this is used to source some basic information about that application, which we will gonna show you. So these are all the components, infrastructure related things which we have spinned up in the GCP environment. Once all of these things are configured, you will get an console URL using which you can browse your cluster, see the information. When you spin up, you can get the URL from the setup itself, or if you want to get that using an CLI command. So there is a tool OC which you need to download, and using this command it will give you the URL using which you can access the console. I have already opened that console. You can see this is the how it looks like, where you can monitor all your cluster related information, cluster IP address, cluster ID, which version you are using, license, subscription, node, storage, all of the things you can see on this dashboard, and all components related to this cluster, ports, deployment configurations, replica set, everything, networking components, services, route, everything related to the cluster. You can easily navigate in this portal. So just to give you an overview that all these things, cluster setting, you can modify the cluster setting, update the autoscaler. These all are the feature includes in this console. So here you will get to see all the relevant services and relevant parameters with respect to this Openshift cluster. Now how we installed that a demo application. So for this particular POC, we have taken a sample microservice application. This is the GitHub URL. It's basically for the demo purpose. So this is the GitHub URL for that. So we have used there's a demo.yaml file in this GitHub URL, and using the steps you can show here. First of all, we had create a project, and then using this command we have deployed all these services in the cluster, and after that we can use this command to get the front end IP, and using that we can navigate. Also in the cluster itself, you can go to the developer section. Developer section, you can have features like builds, helm charts, project secrets you can configure. So if you want to go a UI based installation, you can use this UI, where you can deploy Git application using sample, import from Git, import from YAML. All these things you can get it here. And if you want to see a topology, all these services which are running, so for example, I have used this project Shock Shop to deploy my this demo application. You can see all the parameters here, all the services which are using. You can, when you click on, you can see the resources, services, on which port it's running. You can view the log as well. And if you go to the CLI version, let's say OC get root, here you will get an IP address, you know, a URL basically, which will navigate you to that particular app. Yeah, so this is the demo application, web application we have used for this demo. Here you can see it's perfectly, you know, working seamlessly fine in this container. You can add into cart, you know, you can view items in cart, you can check out, you can add and create shipping address. You can also have able to register as well. So let's say Ashish test 1 test 2. For an example, I'm just using my ID ashish.y@. For example, just take this an example. So you can see you already, you know, register and automatically signed in. All, you know, all these things are perfectly working fine. So these are the some, you know, features of this app. You can see my orders. So as you can see, this website is seamlessly working. Here you can get the number of pods and everything related to that project running. If I run the command OC get pods, I can see, you know, the cards, DB, catalog, front end, all these services running, you know, how much for how much time it's running, user DB. So all the things you can do from this CLI as well as from the UI as well. So as I shown you in this UI, you can navigate to each services like Paytm and navigate what's, you know, the running state, logs and all. So all of these things you can see. Yeah, that's all for this POC. Thank you.